Most people say they want a new life, more money, better relationships, greater impact. But here's the truth. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe. If your bank account isn't changing, your beliefs about money haven't changed. If your results aren't changing, your identity hasn't changed. And if your life feels stuck, it's not because of your circumstances, it's because of your conditioning. You can pray for increase, you can hustle for opportunity, you can read books and attend conferences, but until you upgrade the belief system running in the background of your mind, you'll keep reproducing the same reality on repeat. Your beliefs are the blueprint, your thoughts are the tools, your actions are the construction crew, and right now, whether you realize it or not, you are building a life that matches what you believe you deserve. If you want a different life, you must first become a different believer. Let me tell you something that might challenge the way you've been setting goals your entire life. You don't behave based on what you want. You behave based on what you believe. That's why two people can hear the same opportunity, read the same book, attend the same conference, and walk away with completely different results. One takes action immediately, the other hesitates. One leans in, the other leans back. The difference is not information. The difference is belief. If a person believes they are capable, they move. If they believe they are inadequate, they stall. If they believe money is hard to make, they'll find proof. If they believe value creates wealth, they'll look for ways to serve. Belief is the invisible force behind visible behavior. You say you want to get in shape, but if you believe you lack discipline, you won't go to the gym consistently. You say you want to start the business, but if you believe you're not the entrepreneurial type, you'll procrastinate. You say you want better relationships, but if you believe you're not worthy of healthy love, you'll tolerate dysfunction. Your behavior is not random. It is predictable. And it is predictable because it is programmed. Most people are trying to change their habits without changing their beliefs. They're trying to force new actions with an old identity. That's exhausting. It's like trying to drive forward with the parking brake engaged. You can press the gas all you want, but you're fighting internal resistance. When you believe something deeply, behavior becomes automatic. A person who believes smoking is disgusting doesn't need willpower to avoid cigarettes. A person who believes exercise is part of who they are doesn't debate whether they feel like going. A person who believes they are a value creator naturally looks for problems to solve. Beliefs eliminate negotiation. See, goals require motivation. Beliefs create momentum. Motivation fades. Beliefs endure. That's why some people need constant encouragement, constant inspiration, constant reminders. They're trying to sustain behavior that contradicts what they believe about themselves. But when belief and behavior align, you don't need hype. You need opportunity. If you believe you are capable of producing wealth, you'll start seeing chances everywhere. If you believe you're bad with money, you'll find ways to justify poor financial decisions. The belief acts like a filter. It highlights evidence that confirms it and ignores evidence that challenges it. And here's the dangerous part. Your mind is always looking for proof. If you believe you're unlucky, you'll notice every inconvenience. If you believe you're overlooked, you'll interpret neutral situations as rejection. If you believe you're destined to win, you'll interpret setbacks as lessons. Same events, different interpretations, different behaviors, different outcomes. That's why behavior modification alone rarely produces lasting change. You can discipline yourself temporarily. You can push yourself for a season, but eventually you will default to your dominant belief system. Your life doesn't rise to the level of your goals. It falls to the level of your beliefs. And if you don't consciously choose your beliefs, you will unconsciously repeat the ones handed to you. Many people were raised around limitation. Money doesn't grow on trees. People like us don't become wealthy. Be realistic. And without realizing it, those statements became internal scripts. So now as adults, they set ambitious goals while carrying inherited ceilings. You cannot outperform what you believe about yourself for long. If you believe you are a procrastinator, you will find ways to delay. If you believe you are resilient, you will find ways to persist. If you believe success requires struggle, you will resist ease. If you believe growth requires learning, you will embrace correction. Your behavior always obeys your belief hierarchy. So instead of asking, why can't I stay consistent? Ask, what do I believe about myself that makes inconsistency make sense? Instead of saying, I need more discipline, ask, what belief is making this behavior logical? Because behavior is logical when you understand the belief behind it. If someone consistently undercharges for their services, it's not a pricing problem. It's a self-worth belief. If someone avoids visibility, it's not a marketing problem. It's an identity belief. If someone quits too early, it's not a strategy problem. It's a resilience belief. Change the belief and behavior will follow like a shadow. You don't need to force confidence when you believe you are prepared. You don't need to force generosity when you believe there is abundance. You don't need to force persistence when you believe quitting is not an option. Beliefs create behavior. And if you want new behavior, stop trying to fix the fruit. Change the root. Because until you change what you believe, you will keep behaving in ways that protect it. Let's go deeper, because this is where it gets uncomfortable for some people. Your income rarely exceeds your self-image for long. You might spike financially. You might have a good month. You might land a big deal. But if your identity hasn't expanded to match that level, you will subconsciously find a way to return to what feels familiar, not what's possible, what's familiar. Your self-image is like a thermostat. If the temperature in the room rises above what it's set to, the system works to bring it back down. And if it drops too low, it works to bring it back up. In the same way, your internal identity setting regulates your external results. If you see yourself as a $50,000 a year person, earning $250,000 will feel unnatural. You'll feel pressure. You'll feel like an imposter. You'll start making decisions that reduce the discomfort, overspending, underperforming, procrastinating, avoiding responsibility. Not because you're incapable, but because your identity hasn't caught up. Success doesn't feel safe when it doesn't feel like you. That's why skill alone is not enough. Strategy alone is not enough. You can learn high-income skills. You can study marketing, sales, investing, leadership. But if deep down you don't believe you are the kind of person who earns at that level, your behavior will eventually expose that belief. You don't get paid according to your potential. You get paid according to your perceived value, and your perceived value is tied directly to how you see yourself. If you see yourself as an employee, you'll think like one. You'll look for security. You'll prioritize comfort. You'll wait for permission. If you see yourself as an owner, you'll think differently. You'll look for leverage. You'll prioritize growth. You'll take responsibility. Identity determines interpretation. Interpretation determines action. Action determines income. Some people say, I want to make more money, but they still see themselves as the person who struggles. They still introduce themselves with insecurity. They still shrink in rooms where opportunity lives. They still negotiate against themselves before anyone else does. Your income is not just a financial number. It is a reflection of the level of responsibility you believe you can handle. Higher income requires higher responsibility, more visibility, more decision-making, more risk, more leadership. And if you don't see yourself as capable of carrying that weight, you will unconsciously avoid opportunities that demand it. You can't hold what you don't believe you can handle. That's why some people sabotage growth right when it starts accelerating. Things begin to expand, new clients, new contracts, new platforms, and suddenly they get overwhelmed. But what's really happening is not overwhelm, it's identity conflict. The old self-image is fighting the new opportunity. If you've always seen yourself as the underdog, winning feels uncomfortable. If you've always seen yourself as overlooked, being recognized feels suspicious. If you've always seen yourself as average, excellence feels like pressure. And here's the truth. You will never consistently outperform your self-concept. You might outperform it temporarily through force, through adrenaline, through hype. But sustainable income requires sustainable identity. When you see yourself as valuable, you stop undercharging. When you see yourself as capable, you stop hesitating. When you see yourself as resourceful, you stop making excuses. When you see yourself as a leader, you stop waiting to be led. Identity upgrades eliminate income ceilings. The marketplace pays for value, but you must first believe you are valuable enough to solve expensive problems. If you don't believe that, you will avoid rooms where expensive problems are discussed. You will avoid conversations about pricing. You will avoid positioning yourself at a premium level, not because you lack skill, but because you lack identity alignment. And the powerful part about identity is this: it is learned. It was shaped over time through experiences, environment, repetition, which means it can also be reshaped. You must begin to see yourself not as who you were, but as who you are becoming. That requires intentional exposure. Get around people who operate at the level you desire. Study how they think. Listen to how they speak. Observe what they tolerate and what they don't. Identity expands through proximity. Stop rehearsing the story of who you used to be. Stop introducing yourself through past limitations. Stop reminding yourself of old failures as if they define you. You are not your history. You are your decisions. And when you decide to upgrade your identity, your income will eventually be forced to follow. Because money responds to value. Value responds to confidence. Confidence responds to identity. If you want to earn more, become more internally first. Raise your self-image, and your income will have no choice but to rise with it. Now let's talk about something most people underestimate: environment. Because whether you realize it or not, your environment has been programming you your entire life. You were not born believing money was scarce. You were not born believing success was for other people. You were not born doubting your worth. Those beliefs were installed slowly, subtly, repeatedly, through conversations at the dinner table, through comments from teachers, through what you saw modeled, through what you heard criticized, through what was praised and what was punished. Environment is not just where you live. It's what you hear consistently. It's what you see normalized. It's what gets celebrated around you. If you grow up around people who complain about wealthy individuals, you may unconsciously associate wealth with greed. If you grow up around people who fear risk, you may associate safety with survival. If you grow up in an environment where struggle is glorified, ease can feel suspicious. And here's the powerful part: what feels normal feels true. Most people don't defend their beliefs because they've analyzed them. They defend them because they've been immersed in them. Repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity creates comfort. Comfort creates identity. That's why two people can look at the same opportunity and see completely different things. One sees possibility, the other sees danger. One sees expansion, the other sees risk. It's not intelligence, it's conditioning. Your environment sets the ceiling for what you think is realistic. If nobody around you earns beyond a certain level, that level becomes your subconscious cap. If nobody around you starts businesses, entrepreneurship feels extreme. If nobody around you invests, ownership feels foreign. You don't rise to what's possible. You rise to what's visible. And this is not about blaming your past. It's about understanding your programming. Because once you understand it, you can change it. The danger is staying in an environment that reinforces limitations while trying to build an unlimited life. You cannot consistently think bigger than the voices you surround yourself with. You cannot build confidence in a circle that celebrates mediocrity. You cannot grow beyond what is constantly being affirmed. If every conversation you're part of revolves around problems, you'll become problem-focused. If every conversation revolves around opportunity, you'll become opportunity-focused. Environment directs attention. Attention directs action. You might be working hard on yourself, reading books, listening to powerful messages, setting new goals, but if you return daily to a circle that mocks ambition, questions growth, and reinforces scarcity, you are swimming against a current, and eventually, most people get tired of swimming. This is why proximity matters, not because people are better than you, but because perspectives are contagious. When you get around people who think bigger, something shifts. You start to see what's possible. You start to question old assumptions. You start to realize that what once seemed extraordinary is actually accessible. Exposure expands expectation. If you've never seen $1 million business up close, it feels abstract. When you sit across the table from someone who built one, it becomes tangible. When you see how they think, how they decide, how they evaluate risk, your belief system begins to stretch. Environment doesn't just affect what you believe, it affects what you attempt. In a limited environment, you edit your dreams before you speak them. In an expansive environment, you articulate vision without apology. In a limited environment, safety is praised. In an expansive environment, growth is rewarded. So if you want your beliefs to change, you must change what consistently influences you. That might mean changing your circle. It might mean limiting certain conversations. It might mean consuming different content. It might mean investing in rooms that stretch you. And stretching will feel uncomfortable at first. When you enter a bigger environment, you may feel inadequate. You may feel behind. You may feel exposed. But that discomfort is not a sign you don't belong. It's a sign you're expanding. Your old environment made small thinking feel safe. Your new environment will make growth feel necessary. And here's the truth. You cannot keep the same inputs and expect different outputs. If the beliefs that shaped your current life were formed in one environment, your next level will require a different one. You don't have to reject your past, but you cannot let it define your future. Surround yourself with thinkers who challenge you, with leaders who stretch you, with conversations that elevate you, with examples that expand your definition of normal. Because whatever feels normal eventually feels possible. And once something feels possible, you start moving toward it. Change your environment, and your beliefs will begin to rise to match it. Now let's take this even deeper, because belief is not just something you think. It's something you demonstrate. Faith is belief in motion. It's not mental agreement. It's not positive language. It's not repeating affirmations while doing nothing different. Faith is when your actions line up with what you say you believe. You can say you believe you're called to build something great, but if you don't move, you don't believe. You can say you believe increase is coming, but if you don't prepare for it, you don't believe. You can say you believe doors will open, but if you're not knocking, you don't believe. Belief moves first, evidence follows. Most people are waiting for proof before they act. They're waiting to feel confident before they step out. They're waiting for guarantees before they commit. But faith doesn't respond to guarantees. It responds to conviction. If you truly believe you are capable, you'll attempt things that stretch you. If you truly believe opportunity exists, you'll look for it. If you truly believe provision is available, you'll position yourself for it. Action reveals belief. That's why when someone says, I believe I can succeed, but they never invest in learning, never take calculated risks, never step into uncomfortable rooms, the truth is exposed. Their language says belief. Their behavior says doubt. And behavior never lies. Faith is not passive. Faith is not sitting back hoping something changes. Faith is moving in alignment with what you believe to be true, even before you see the full picture. If you believe a harvest is coming, you plant. If you believe growth is possible, you stretch. If you believe your future can be greater than your past, you start building toward it. The problem for many people is they want results without demonstration. They want increase without investment. They want transformation without transition. But belief requires alignment. When what you say, what you think, and what you do line up, power shows up. If you believe you are becoming a leader, You start making decisions like one, you don't wait for a title, you don't wait for recognition, you take responsibility now. If you believe you are building wealth, you manage money differently now, you study differently now, you evaluate opportunities differently now. Faith prepares before it possesses, and here's what's powerful: action strengthens belief. Every time you move in alignment with your declared future, your internal conviction grows. The first time you step out, it feels uncomfortable. The second time, less so. The third time, it begins to feel natural. Courage compounds. Inaction, on the other hand, weakens belief. Every time you hesitate, every time you talk yourself out of an opportunity, every time you shrink instead of stepping forward, doubt deepens its roots. You train your mind through movement. If you consistently act boldly, you begin to see yourself as bold. If you consistently take initiative, you begin to see yourself as proactive. If you consistently follow through, you begin to see yourself as disciplined. Identity is reinforced by repetition. That's why faith is so powerful. It interrupts the old identity and begins installing a new one through action. You don't wait to become confident, you act, and confidence develops. You don't wait to become capable, you act, and capacity expands. Movement creates momentum, and momentum makes what once felt impossible begin to feel inevitable. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be variables you can't control. There will always be risks, but belief does not eliminate uncertainty. It moves in spite of it. You don't need the whole staircase to take the first step. You need conviction about the direction. If you say you believe your life can change, prove it with preparation. If you say you believe you're meant for more, prove it with discipline. If you say you believe opportunities are available, prove it by seeking them. Because when your actions and your declarations align, something shifts internally. You stop hoping, you start building. And once you start building consistently, results have no choice but to follow. Faith is not what you say in private, it's what you demonstrate in public. Move like it's already possible. Act like it's already yours. Build like it's already done. Because belief that doesn't move is not belief at all. Let me bring this full circle for you. Your results are not random. They are not mysterious. They are not accidental. Your results are evidence. They are indicators. They are reflections of your dominant beliefs. If you want to know what you truly believe, don't listen to your words. Look at your life. Your bank account is speaking. Your habits are speaking. Your relationships are speaking. Your level of discipline is speaking. Results reveal beliefs. Now that might feel uncomfortable because it's easier to blame circumstances. It's easier to blame the economy, your upbringing, your boss, your past, your lack of resources. And yes, circumstances matter. Challenges are real. Obstacles exist. But two people can face the same obstacle and produce different outcomes. Why? Because they believe differently about what the obstacle means. One person sees a setback and believes, this is proof I'm not good enough. Another sees the same setback and believes, this is feedback, I need to adjust. Same event, different belief, different response, different result. Your life is not just happening to you, it's responding to you. If someone consistently struggles financially, there is a belief operating beneath the surface. Maybe it's money is hard to keep. Maybe it's I'm not good with numbers. Maybe it's wealth changes people. Whatever it is, the behavior will align with it. If someone consistently attracts unhealthy relationships, there is a belief operating. Maybe it's this is all I deserve. Maybe it's love requires sacrifice of self. Maybe it's being alone is worse than being mistreated. The pattern reveals the belief. Patterns are not coincidences. They are confirmations. And instead of asking, why does this keep happening to me? A more powerful question is, what would I have to believe for this to feel normal? Because whatever feels normal, you will recreate. If chaos feels normal, peace will feel boring. If struggle feels normal, ease will feel suspicious. If small wins feel normal, big opportunities will feel overwhelming. Your nervous system is loyal to familiarity, not destiny. That's why growth requires awareness. You have to be willing to examine your results without defensiveness, not with shame, not with guilt, but with responsibility. Responsibility is not blame. Responsibility is power. When you take responsibility for your results, you gain the ability to change them. When you blame everything outside of you, you surrender that power. Look at your daily habits. If you say you believe health matters, but you consistently neglect your body, your behavior is exposing your real belief hierarchy. If you say you believe your future can be greater, but you don't invest time in learning or stretching yourself, your results are revealing hesitation. Results are honest. They don't respond to intention, they respond to alignment. And here's the empowering truth. If your current results reveal your current beliefs, then new beliefs will eventually produce new results. But you must stop being surprised by outcomes that match your internal narrative. If you believe opportunities are rare, you won't look for them. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll push them away. If you believe you're behind in life, you'll rush decisions from insecurity. And then when the outcome reflects that belief, you'll call it bad luck. It's not bad luck. It's belief in action. Now, this is not about perfection. Everyone is growing. Everyone is unlearning. Everyone is upgrading. But the key is awareness. When you see a result you don't like, don't immediately try to change the result. Trace it back. What belief made this behavior logical? What assumption made this decision reasonable? What internal story made this outcome predictable? When you identify the belief, you found the lever. Because once you change the belief, you don't have to force the result. The behavior shifts naturally. The decisions shift naturally. The standards shift naturally. If you begin to believe you are disciplined, you'll act disciplined. If you begin to believe you are valuable, you'll negotiate differently. If you begin to believe you are resilient, you'll persist longer. And over time, your results will start telling a new story. Your life is a mirror. It reflects back to you what you consistently believe about yourself, about money, about relationships, about possibility. If you don't like what you see, don't break the mirror. Change the image. Because when your beliefs change, your behavior changes. When your behavior changes, your results change. And when your results change, your life changes. Your results are not your enemy. They are your evidence.